So what does cause heart disease if none of this does? What does clog our arteries if fat and cholesterol don't? Well, let's talk about what exactly everybody's afraid of. And the focus of all of our studies is always on arteriosclerosis, which is plaque building up in your arteries. Plaque builds up in your arteries, it causes an obstruction of blood flow, and then all of a sudden if you have a small blood clot come through and it gets held up because of the plaque, now you have blockage, and now you have a heart attack. That's the big fear. So let's talk about what causes this. Well, let's talk about what we measure. Our primary markers right now are HDL and LDL. Those are the major things that we're measuring in our blood. Why? Why do these two items provide a marker for our heart health? Well, let's talk about what LDL and HDL do in our body. First, let's start with cholesterol. Most people don't know this, but your body makes 90% of the cholesterol that it needs, without anything from your diet. But what does our body use cholesterol for? Cholesterol is so important. We need it to make brain cells. Sex hormones like testosterone, estrogen, and progesterone are all made from cholesterol. Vitamin D is made from cholesterol. Vitamin D doesn't just magically come from the sun. What the sun does is cause a chemical reaction in our body that changes cholesterol into vitamin D. So if we want vitamin D, we must have cholesterol. And then cholesterol makes digestive aids and all kinds of stuff. Cholesterol is one of the most important substances that we need in our body. So, what are HDL and LDL particles? Well, when our body needs the cholesterol, it will send the cholesterol through our liver. And from our liver, it needs to be transported. Because cholesterol is a waxy substance. It does not mix with a water-based substance like blood. So it has to have a transporter. And that's what HDL and LDL are. They are transporters. They are proteins which can travel through the blood just fine, so it wraps around the cholesterol and carries it around your body. LDL particles carry the cholesterol from our liver out to all the cells in your body that needs it. And when the cholesterol gets to where it needs to go, it's going to do what it needs to do, whether it's make brain cells, testosterone, vitamin D, whatever. It's going to do its thing. Now when it's done doing its thing, there's going to be leftover. And that's where HDL comes over and transports the leftovers back to the liver for removal or recycling. Now as you can see, what LDL and HDL do is complete a circle. LDL takes cholesterol from the liver out to the cells that need it, and HDL comes and takes whatever's left back to the liver from the cells. So tell me, which of these particles do you think should be labeled bad cholesterol? If you said neither, you're right. Because this is all a good process. Every part of it. LDL got labeled bad cholesterol because it's adding cholesterol to your body. HDL got labeled good cholesterol because it is taking cholesterol out of your body. But when you understand the whole process, you know that both LDL and HDL particles are needed. So this is all a good process. HDL and LDL particles are both good. So where does the problem come in? Well, earlier we talked about the big problem being LDL and HDL particle size and density. So let's talk about that. We talked about the healthy HDL and LDL particles being big and fluffy. When your particles are large and fluffy, they're like cotton balls traveling through your veins. They can bounce off of artery walls and they won't cause any damage because it's like a cotton ball. It's harmless. Now, if you have small, dense HDL and LDL particles, those are like BBs traveling through your veins. When they ricochet off the walls of your arteries, they cause damage, like BBs. That's when they're bad. Let's see what happens when you have small, dense HDL and LDL particles floating around your veins. Small, dense particles traveling through your arteries will cause ricocheting off artery walls, and this will cause damage. Well, what happens when you get a bump or a bruise on your skin? It swells and becomes inflamed. This is your immune system. And the same thing will happen to your arteries. If small, dense HDL and LDL particles ricochet off your artery walls and cause damage, it will get inflamed, and then your immune system will send out immune cells to go take care of it. and these immune cells are called macrophages, but you don't need to worry about that. Your immune system will send out immune cells. That's the important part. Now, when your immune cells get there, one of the things that it will do is eat those small, dense HDL and LDL particles. And the byproduct of this eating is foam. This arterial foam is the plaque that we are so deathly afraid of. This is the cause of heart disease. So if the big deal is that the particles have to be small and dense in order to cause damage, how do particles become small and dense? The answer is sugar and white carbohydrates. Let's see how this happens. Now, I told you the normal condition is that HDL and LDL particles are large and fluffy, and they are traveling through your arteries doing no damage. But when we eat a meal loaded with sugar and white carbohydrates, your blood will become flooded with blood sugar. And what happens is this sugar sticks to HDL and LDL particles and causes them to oxidize. It's kind of like copper rusting. It turns green. That's because of oxidation. It's the same process. When HDL and LDL particles become oxidized, that makes them small and dense. And when that happens, then we're back to this process. Small dense LDL particles are floating through your arteries. They hit the cell wall, cause damage. It gets inflamed. Your immune system sends out immune cells. The immune cells eat those small dense particles. The byproduct of that eating is arterial foam, which is the plaque. And now you have plaque in your arteries, and you're just waiting for a heart attack. This is the cause of heart disease. It is not fat, saturated fat, and cholesterol. It is the sugar and white carbohydrates that we're all eating. So take a look at the research below, and you can make your own decision. You don't have to trust me. Now, what types of fats is it okay to eat? That we'll talk about in my upcoming videos.